What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Hope you're having a good week. I am obviously back home. It feels good to be home. I've been away a lot lately, and I get to kind of settle for a couple months here, which was needed. I had a great time traveling and everything, but I'm definitely tired, ready to kind of hang out with the family a little bit here. So excited to be back. Plenty to talk about this week. Lots of stuff going on. We've got our good friend Nico joining us to fill us in on what the fuck's up. There's some dramatic shit happening and some cool stuff too. So we'll get into that momentarily. Of course, this is live. Anything can happen. So I defer to my friend Bill here.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
If you have not already, like, subscribe, share, all of those things help get this content in front of more eyeballs. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we get into the news, let's take a look at where we are on the market right now. Here on the bitbo.io dashboard, each coin, Bitcoin is going for 20,100 and, fluctuating 20 some odd dollars per coin. Single US dollar will pick you up 4,969 nice sats. Pretty good deal though. 91.14% of all Bitcoin have been mined. In terms of fees, next block, 14 sats per byte. If you're willing to wait a little bit, somewhere between 4 and 8 sats per byte will do you. Shout out to sponsors of the show, coinkite.com. Awesome stuff. I love these guys. Cold Card Mark IV, above and beyond. One of basically my favorite device to use. I love it. It's 100% air gapped. You can do the SD air gapping, NFC. You've got virtual disk mode. You've got all kinds of crazy stuff on this. CoinKite also offers the open dimes. I've been leaving them everywhere. Little scavenger hunts. I just did one in France. I did one in New York recently. Maybe I'll do one in LA in November. We'll see. Block clock, Sats cards, Tab Signer. They've got it all here. You got to check them out. Coinkite.com. Go to the store. Use code BTC Sessions for 5% off everything in store, or you can just click the link down below. If you're in Canada, Shakepay, super easy way to stack sats. You can e-transfer in and out with no deposit or withdrawal fees. There's a thin spread. And if you sign up using the link down below, you purchase your first $100 worth of Bitcoin, they'll give you $30 for free. You get the same deal, same $30, if you use your own referral link and hand that out to friends and family that are curious about Bitcoin. They do the same. $30 in your pocket. You can shake your phone every day for free sats back Visa card. Tons of ways to get free sats. Check them out. Links are down below. LEDN.io, you can use your Bitcoin for a ton of different services. These guys have been super useful for me whenever I'm in a bit of a cash flow pinch. I need my hands on dollars. I don't want to sell my Bitcoin because I'm worried about taxable events, or I'm worried about buying back in at a higher price, especially for temporary cash flow. Well, I can deposit Bitcoin here, get a loan of dollars to my bank account within 24 hours, pay back those dollars, get back the same amount of sats. Super useful. They also have savings accounts for Bitcoin, US, and USDC with quarterly third-party audits, which you can cryptographically verify to make sure your deposit is involved in that audit, so you're not getting jerked around Celsius style. They've got their BTOX offering. There's got Bitcoin-backed mortgages across Canada and soon to some select U.S. states. Check them out. start.ledn.io/BTC sessions. Bitrefill helps me live on Bitcoin. You can pick up all your favorite gift cards here using Bitcoin, both on-chain and via Lightning Network. You earn sats back as you shop. You can get more sats back with their referral program. You can top up your phone, your Lightning channels, all this good stuff. And if you're in the U.S., you can pay bills with Bitcoin. So check them out, bitrefill.com. And finally, if you're backing up any important Bitcoin wallet, get it in solid steel, folks. Paper doesn't cut it. You don't want that shit burning up in a fire or disintegrating in a flood. Get it in solid steel. This is how I'm backing up my important stuff. over at privacypros.io /BTC sessions. If you care to use that link, then you can pick yourself up one as well. Shoutouts, time for shoutouts. Thanks to everybody that's been dropping the boostergrams, listening to the pod on things like Fountain or Breeze. So quick shoutouts here. KNSV22, keep the education going, my buddy. Is there a smoother, sexier duo than Ben and Nico? Hashtag bring the heat from Joey Seshiels. Zaga Boy, knocked it to the park again, Ben. Francis has better food and climate, but they speak funny. Come to London, mate. It's actually sunny for once. Awesome. Thanks to Cliff J. Banger. IDA, IDAD dude said, fuck Craig Wright. Indeed, my friend. At Bond said, I like this mashup, Simply Sessions. Thanks, I like it too. This travel rule, FATF recommendations, and ever-increasing KYC nonsense has really got me to the point where I don't even want to interact with these companies anymore that implement this shit, especially ahead of time. Looking into the trust alliance that Coinbase started and Shakepay joined. Maybe Shakepay had to, considering they custody with Coinbase. I didn't get into Bitcoin to bend the knee to the same old invasive regulatory shit. Thank you for the rip, guys. I agree. I think some of that shit is bull, and I think it should be resisted at all costs, especially not implemented ahead of time. JPC _ BTC says, thanks again. Stay humble. Keep stacking. Knowledge is power. Stay humble. Keep stacking. Thanks again, JPC. Great show as always. Love hearing from the people who are fighting the political fight. This discussion on energy is fire from Second Breakfast, referring to Dennis that was on earlier. Fly 54, keep up the good work. Bullish on internationally growing bends. Hashtag more bends and friends. Hashtag surfing Bitcoin OG tutorialer. The original golden streak. Those are excellent hashtags, Joey. Thanks again for that. 69 sats. Nice. All right, let's get into the news. Everybody, let's bring in our friends here. Let me get rid of this screen. And hey, buddy. How you doing, man? Good to see you, man.
Happy to be here. Happy to be on the BTC sessions.
You're getting lots of praise here in the comments section. It's always nice to see people are digging it. So thanks for joining me every week, man. I'm eternally grateful. I love the Simply sessions. It makes my Thursdays so much more enjoyable being able to talk with somebody I really like. So thanks for being here, man.
Ben, you're thanking me, but I thank you, bro. I'm having a blast. I absolutely love this. It's a lot of fun.
Well, dude, I'm glad to have you, and you always kill it with the news. So, I mean, let's dive into it, man. I'll bring your screen up here, but what's going on? What's on your mind? What's been happening this week?
Yeah, man, the continuation of the separation of money and state, and the state is fighting back. You can make the argument that Michael Saylor got sued for tax fraud. Coincidentally, it was a big coincidence. And then coincidentally, not only did they sue Michael Saylor, the individual, but they also sued MicroStrategy, right? And mind you, this is 2 to 3 weeks after the U.S. Treasury sanctioned open source software for the first time in its history. I don't know about you, Ben, but that's a very, very, very big coincidence. This is the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. His name is Karl Racine. I hope I pronounced his last name right, but let's check out what he has to say. He said, today we're suing Michael Saylor, a billionaire tech executive who has lived in the district for more than a decade, but has never paid any D.C. income tax for tax fraud. We're also suing his company, MicroStrategy, for conspiring to help him evade taxes he legally owes on hundreds of millions of dollars he's earned while living in D.C. And then here is a Bloomberg article, and here is actually Saylor and his company responding. He says, I respectfully disagree with the position of the District of Columbia and look forward to a fair resolution in the courts. Although MicroStrategy is based in Virginia, Florida is where I live, vote, and have reported for jury duty, and it is at the center of my personal and family life. The District of Columbia's claims against the company are false and will defend aggressively against this overreach. It goes on to say, shares of MicroStrategy fell 3.6%. So obviously, look, maybe I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, Ben. Maybe that's like to my detriment. I don't know, but I'll tell you this, okay? Michael Saylor represents the vanguard. He's the figurehead for the movement of public companies holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet and using it as an alternative to fiat money, and the process that takes power away from governments. In the last month alone, like I said, you had a move by the US Treasury saying, hey, open source software, sanctioned, trying to set a precedent. And now you have a attorney general using lawfare to go after Michael Saylor himself and the company. The United States under the Obama administration was caught, and it was a big scandal at the time, using the IRS to go after certain political opponents that didn't believe in a certain ideology. So this isn't a new thing for the government, right? So I don't know, Ben, there's this really famous saying from one of my favorite broadcasters, and then I'll pass it on to you. There are no conspiracies, but there are also no coincidences.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. Like it seems to be more and more obvious that we're entering into, or like in the early stages of the then they fight you stage, right? They're just starting to kind of dip their toes in and, okay, attack that, sanction that, sue that person. More and more of that happening now. We haven't done ourselves any favors up until now in terms of keeping our heads down and staying humble. I saw somebody putting up that clip of Saylor where he was in an interview and he said something to the tune of, and if you push me too hard, well, I lost it in a boating accident. Tax that. And then I saw somebody else, IRS, hold my beer. Yeah, I mean, this is going to happen. Unfortunately, the people that are in Bitcoin right now are the early ones that are easy targets. So this includes every single one of us right now. Fortunately, there's a number of Bitcoiners like Michael Saylor that are quite well off and can actually go to court and fight for this kind of shit. And for those that can't, when we get attacked, luckily we have an easy global censorship resistant way to fundraise for those people, aka Hodlonaut, who raised well over $1 million for his legal fees against Craig Wright. So it's kind of nice that we at least have that on our side, but it's not gonna be easy. And in terms of the idea of suing Michael Saylor in terms of his primary residence, I mean, even in the past couple of years since he kind of hit the public scene, I thought it was pretty common knowledge, like his main base is Florida. Like he's been hitting the events there. I know he has a home in Florida. I've seen the pictures of all the Bitcoiners going to his place. He's got his yacht down there and everything. I'm curious to see what constitutes him living in DC as his main residence. I kind of, it seems not quite truthful, but I guess we'll see. I don't know, because when's the last time truth was really observed in clown world? So hey, we'll see. What else you got going on, man?
Yeah, so connect the dots, everybody. This is connected, okay? This is not all of this is too big of a coincidence to say that it's just independent, right? And this is a continuation of what actually we reported, Ben, 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? Iran greenlights Bitcoin and crypto payments for imports, right? So we reported a couple weeks ago, the first transaction was about $10 million, right? This is a continuation of here, right? This is what we reported. The order was reportedly valued at 10 million, right? So there's a continuation of this. It says Iran passed an act which enables the use of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency payments for imports through a comprehensive legal framework. Iranian minister revealed that the recent passed law defines regulations on cryptocurrencies, defines regulations on cryptocurrencies, addresses supply concerns for fuel and electricity costs for mining, and provides authorization for the administration to use cryptocurrencies. The minister reportedly reiterated the authorization was an agreement between the Ministry of Industry and the central bank, arguably suggesting, here's the signal, Ben, suggesting a multi-departmental consensus on the viability of Bitcoin as a means for international payments. Goes on to say, also noted that local businesses will be able to import vehicles by using Bitcoin, signal here again, instead of the US dollar or the euro. Now, why is this significant? Here is the U.S. sanction policy list. On that list is Iran, and on that list is Russia as well. As soon as this news came out, Ben, shortly after, Russia signaled as well, and the minister over there said, we need to intensely develop innovative areas, including the adoption of digital assets. Here's the key. This is a safe alternative for all parties that can guarantee uninterrupted payment for the supply of goods from abroad and for export. Now, if you want to know why the U.S. Treasury sanctioned an open source software, here is your answer. Here is your answer. These countries are clearly signaling that they're going to use Bitcoin in a way to circumvent current U.S. sanction policy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dude, like, can you imagine reading these headlines 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and be like, everybody's freaking out because we're currently in a bear market and these are the headlines. People would be like, you have major nation, and not just like some dinky little nations, but like Russia talking about Bitcoin for international settlement, and Iran already greenlit and used it. Like, it's natural that this would happen when money gets weaponized, right? People will migrate to a system that doesn't discriminate, that is just a level playing field for all. And that's what we're seeing. It just happens to be from one side of the aisle to the other, or one set of one belief system, one set of nations to the other. It just happened to be the U.S. sanctioning Russia and Iran that set this whole thing off. It could have just as easily been the other way around. It does make me worry temporarily for those of us that are in Western nations being villainized for, God forbid, using a money that somebody, perceived as bad also uses. Because, the US dollar never gets used for anything bad. So yeah, it's wild to see. I wanted to highlight one thing from that Cointelegraph article about Russia. One thing that I noticed that was interesting is down near the bottom. I'll just read it here. It said, the idea of international payments in crypto even received support from Russia's biggest government crypto skeptic, the Bank of Russia. In June, the Bank of Russia Governor Elvira Nabulina, I'm not sure how to say it, stated that cryptocurrencies can be used in cross-border or international payments, but only, and here's the caveat that she, obviously the central bank, would say, but only if they don't get into Russia's domestic financial system. So rules for thee, but not for me, is what we're seeing. And we saw the same thing in Ukraine. They're like, oh yeah, we're super stoked to receive millions of dollars in donations with Bitcoin and others. But we don't want anybody using it so that they can get their money out of the country. But that's the thing. When they demonstrate that it works perfectly in the face of people not wanting them to use it, the citizens are going to go, I guess I could just use it. So, yeah, as much as they try to make rules for thee and not for me, I don't think it's going to work or stick.
Alex Gladstein wrote, to add to your point, Ben, Alex Gladstein wrote this amazing article called Bitcoin is the Trojan Horse for Freedom. And in that article, he makes the case that dictators are going to be attracted to using Bitcoin because of the freedom properties. But what they don't understand is that once they take that pill, the freedom and the number go up technology is inextricably linked. So you can't disconnect the two. And I think that's basically what you were saying, right? Is that once they show the Russian people, hey, we could use this to go around U.S. sanction policy, why can't I use it too? To save into money that won't be debased and can't be easily confiscated, right? So it forces the government to answer very difficult questions where before they wouldn't even have to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, something tells me this isn't the last time we're going to hear country X, Y, or Z has started using Bitcoin because they've been purged from the legacy financial system.
100%. I think this is the first inning, and in about a year or so, we will be doing the show live from the gulag.
Perhaps. Well, in the meantime, let's see what else is up before we get tossed in there.
All right, so this was also a huge announcement. I'm going to connect it with something else. Again, very big coincidence here once again, but I'll connect it. This was announced over the weekend at BitBlock Boom at a satellite event. New York Digital Investment Group announces Lightning Accelerator project called In Wolf's Clothing. Absolutely love that name. And it was Ross Stevens. For anyone who doesn't remember Ross Stevens was the guy who was in charge for the Bitcoin for Institutions in this crazy kind of presentation that Michael Saylor did about a year or 2 years ago, right? This is the guy behind it. He also did a legendary interview with Michael Saylor as well, right when it was just starting. Anyways, it says, speaking from the Bitcoin Commons, Stevens shared that NYDIG will launch a Lightning Accelerator project. Quote, to quote him, says, the reality is that this year, and this is the signal, Ben, the progress in Bitcoin and Lightning is staggering. Month after month after month, the nodes on the Lightning network are growing. Keep in mind, this is after Bitcoin fell 70%. The accelerator is geared towards individual founders and small teams, developers working on Lightning, Taro, Covenant, pre-seed, seed, Series A companies, transportation and lodging will be provided participants from anywhere in the world. The program will be run in 8-week cohorts. There will be 8 to 12 teams per cohort. World-class mentors with office hours. The cohorts will be exclusively non-remote. There will be significant seed capital for each team with already recruited investors and full-time in-house expertise. It's absolutely crazy that they're doing this after Bitcoin fell 70%. Now, here's a little bit of signal. At the end, Steven says, we're coming for you, fiat. Let's work tirelessly to make finance decentralized. Let's work tirelessly to make money decentralized. Keep in mind, this article was released August 26th. This came out August 29th. Again, very big coincidence. The U.S. Federal Reserve has tightened the window for the launch of its FedNow instant payments platform to between May and July 2023. According to a press release, FedNow will be open to financial institutions of any size. So they're basically making the case. Again, very big coincidence. A couple days after Ross Stevens, who's behind the whole institutional movement, says, hey, we're investing in Lightning. It's going to destroy fiat. The Fed says, hey, we got our Fed now, but it isn't only the Fed. This is a recent article published by the World Economic Forum. Check out the date. Again, coincidentally, a couple days after that, what are central bank digital currencies? In it, Ben, it says, central bank money is a risk-free form of money that is guaranteed by the state. That sounds absolutely terrifying. And I know you're going to like this, Ben. Says the Bank of England explains that CBDCs, because they're pegged to a country's national currency, don't have the volatility of privately issued digital currencies like Bitcoin. Okay, hold on a second. Are you trying to tell me that Bitcoin is more privately issued than central bank money? That is propaganda spin.
Yeah, that's such trash. Oh my God. I love that they said what basically risk-free. Was that the actual quote that they said? Basically risk-free?
No, risk-free. No, basically nothing. Risk-free form of money.
Wow. They doubled down more than Raoul Pal there. Like that's it's risk-free. I'm just picturing his smirking face. Yeah, risk-free of I guess you need to specify what the risk is. If the risk is having your entire life dictated by a central bank, then the risk is 100%. If you're worried about fluctuations in value in the short term, well, I mean, the risk is still there because, as we've learned, they have no clue what they're doing in regards to monetary policy. So, yeah, man. And privately issued Bitcoin. Man, I mean, nail on the head for Ethereum and XRP. I suppose, which came afterwards there in the quote. But yeah, I mean, it's just there's so much gaslighting here. It's unbelievable. It's actually very believable. What am I talking about? It's par for the course, I suppose. Plenty of propaganda, and I'll give a shout out to Lena Seish. She, speaking of central bank propaganda, the Bank of Canada came out with a tweet storm clarifying the misinformation around money printing. And they basically like threw out all the jargon of like, we're not printing money, we're buying government bonds. And you're like, where did the money come from to buy the government bonds? And then she made a little cartoon with her little Bitcoin characters that basically makes fun of the central bank trying to spin the narrative, and it's excellent. I'll show it after we wrap up with the news here, but yeah, it's gaslighting all around from the central banks. But yeah, any other thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, I mean, and look, it goes on to say, right, it's like the Europe says it's risk-free. America's central bank says the safest digital asset available to the general public with no associated credit or liquidity risk. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, and a lot of people are going to believe it too. They're going to see all the headlines of like the shitcoin rug pulls, and they're going to think like every mainstream article out there that Bitcoin is those things. But it's not. Like, those are the scammers capitalizing on the success of Bitcoin. And then the central bankers capitalize on the lack of understanding around the difference of Bitcoin and crypto, in the hopes that people don't get it, gravitate towards it, and opt out.
absolutely. Ben, what are your thoughts? I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the Ross Stevens announcement? Do you think it's noise, signal? What are your thoughts?
I think I mean, listen, you've got this guy. He appears to know what's up. He appears to know that the money is broken. He appears to very much know that there's a huge difference between Bitcoin and shitcoins. Even in some of the quotes there, he said something like he referred to shitcoins and said that it's all trash. Something about the tech behind shitcoins is brittle or something like that. He said, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. And he's getting smart people in a room in person to work on promising second layer solutions to further improve upon what Bitcoin can already do. I think that's massive. I think it's incredible. I think the announcement is big, but it'll be another one of these kind of slow burn stories. You hear it, you don't hear anything else for an extended period of time, and then all of a sudden, incredible amounts of innovation start happening because the work that's being done starts to actually come into production, and people actually get to start to use it. So it's great, and I love that this is happening in the midst of a bear market, because this is where the signal is. They're doing this, like you said, after Bitcoin drops 70%, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to pile tons of money into this, into ensuring that stuff continues to get built on Bitcoin. A+.
Ben, do you think, and again, this is like some Nico Jones, but do you think that this type of language has to do with them seeing this type of stuff? And then one last thing, these bureaucrats have never been used to competition in their entire lives. So instead of competing on an open market and trying to out-innovate the other guy, which is what you're supposed to, they're showing their true colors of totalitarianism.
Oh yeah. I think it's no mistake that the wording of the pumping of central bank digital currencies, saying that it's going to be efficient and eco-friendly and all this shit. In reference to the Bank of Canada coming out and clarifying misinformation around money printing, all this shit. It's no mistake that they're now being kept on their toes because there's an alternative. When there's no alternative, you don't have to clarify shit. You just keep on doing what you're doing because nobody has any choice anyways. Now they're having to come out and be like, no, please guys, don't go anywhere. Hold on. Please opt into our totalitarian system. So you're totally fucked. but there's always going to be an opt-out. There's always going to be an opt-out now. It's not going anywhere. It's just how much of a headache are they going to make it in the interim? That's it.
100%. Christine Lagarde has a word for it and everything. The escape valve in her French accent. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
So, Ben, I know this is going to be the part that you find the most interesting because you're a tinker like me. This is Block. Block is the company that Jack Dorsey launched. And what they wanted to do is launch an open source hardware wallet, but it wasn't just the actual software that was open source. It was the actual circuit, the actual chip itself that was open source. And no one's really ever done that before. And here, what I found interesting is that they gave their reasons as to why, they wanted to do this. So first, it lays it out. It says, initially considered, we primarily focus on 3 options: secure element, system on chip, microcontroller, and a custom ASIC, right? So they go on and they have this really fancy graph. Of course, I think it's a little bit biased, where the trade-offs between all of them: secure element, general purpose SoC, general purpose MCU, secure MCU, and then the color labels make it, red is, high risk, green is good, right? So they kind of justify their reasons. Now, what's really interesting, Ben, I want to get your thoughts on this, is that they went with the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
They went with the basic microcontroller. Confident that a secure microcontroller offered the best balance against the criteria for our product, our team developed a short list of components that could work. Of all the options we considered, the silicon, I don't know what that is, secure MCU offered the most compelling mix of security features and gave us the most flexibility for transparency. So it's really interesting, Ben, because the Seed Signer project kind of took that same approach. And if you compare that with with the other hardware wallets, like, one of my favorites, which is the Cold Card, you got Bitbox, of course, Ledger, they all use a secure element, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are choosing not to do that, which is really interesting. And you think that they're being forced to do that because you can't really open source a secure element?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, they kind of came into this saying, we want this to be fully open source, and we want, I mean, my feeling when I was listening to kind of them talk about this as they launched the project was they wanted people to be able to replicate their work, and not have to go through third parties. So in the article here, they talk about, like, if we had a secure element, then we're necessarily having to work with some of these people that create the secure element. And that means they have to be involved in the development process as we create this device. And it just adds, roadblocks for us. We can't do things as quickly. So I get their point there. Now, the thing with not having a secure element, when it comes to the seed signer, it's stateless, right? Like, it doesn't retain a copy of your seed phrase. And so you can't extract the public key or the private key if you get a hold of the device, because it's not stored on the device. It's separate from the device. It's literally just used to interact with a private key that's usually in the form of a QR code. When you have a device that stores your private key and it doesn't have a secure element, then you have to basically, depending on how you interact with it, if you don't have like a passphrase added to your seed, then anybody that gets a hold of the device, you've got to assume that with enough know-how and proper equipment, they'll be able to extract your private key. We've seen this with the Trezor. If you don't have a passphrase on your Trezor, they've shown that you can extract the private key from that device. So again, it depends what you're defending from. If you're trying to defend from very tech savvy individuals kicking in your door and stealing your device and then going and hacking it elsewhere, then yeah, you're going to be worried about that, or your hardware going missing unbeknownst to you, and in that time somebody extracting your private key. Yes, that's a worry. If your main worry is not having your keys accessible in a hot or connected device, then maybe this isn't as much of a worry for you. So I'm obviously going to tinker with it. I do like the Trezor for ease of use and everything, but I recognize that if there's not a passphrase attached or it's not part of a multi-sig, then you have to be careful in how you utilize the Trezor. And the same would go for something like this. From my understanding and cursory reading of this is attach a passphrase, I suppose. And we'll see what the interface looks like when it comes out. I still think it can be useful. And they're trying to, like, they're going the NFC route. We'll see what comes of it. So I'm hopeful. And it seems their main goal too is making something that's very simple to use and accessible to all, so that self-custody becomes more of the norm. And I can appreciate that too. So yeah, we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I also feel like I'm well informed enough to recognize the trade-offs.
Yeah, 100%. I'm completely on, especially for a single sig. I would not feel comfortable with a device without a secure element. That's just, because at the end of the day, it is physically vulnerable. There's mitigations, like you said, with the 25th word. If, for example, you're using it as a 1 key out of a 3 of 5, fine. But it's like, if I'm traveling and if I'm going over a border, I love having a cold card. I'll just say that because I know it's going to buy me the most amount of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Good guy biker in the comments said Ledger and Cold Card can be physically attacked too, but with a much higher threshold. So a passphrase helps there as well. Yeah. I mean, everything, again, a general good practice is assume if somebody gets a hold of your hardware that it may be compromised, have that backup ready, and then move those funds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The last one that was broken was the MK2. And it required specialty hardware, laser beams, and it was 500,000 with all the equipment, all whatever. And that was the MK2, right? So imagine if you have that in a 3 of 5 with multiple cold cards, then it becomes very expensive. Like, I feel like only nation state attackers could pull something off like that. Or it's as what you were saying with this. It's like, dude, the average Joe, if he's computer savvy enough, he knows how to do it. And I agree. I think this thing is just a signing device. But it's not something that you definitely, let's see what happens. I'll just say that. So the next thing I want to talk about, Ben, was the last thing actually, was the Bitcoin mining difficulty jumps 9.26%. This is a little bit of an update. The largest hash rate increase since January. The hash price, which basically represents how much Bitcoin you're getting for a terahash, it continues to go down. It's like a record down. It's like a 0.08 cents. So miners right now, like in every single bear market, are getting absolutely crushed. And the miners with the worst power costs are starting to get pressured out. But this happens every single time. But that difficulty adjustment's quite big, right?
That's interesting. Like, difficulty jumping up would indicate an increase in hash coming onto the network, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So in this environment, that it seems strange to me that there would be that much of a jump in difficulty, given everybody's getting squeezed the fuck out of if they're not super efficient. Like, what do you see as a reason for a difficulty jump in this type of an environment?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a lagging indicator, right? And remember we had the catastrophe. I wouldn't even say catastrophe. If you've been in Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. But if you got into Bitcoin the last year or two, the month of August, really June, August were terrible for you. This thing fell like 38%, and with it, fell down a little bit of a hash rate. But we did have a little bit of a recovery. We went all the way up to 25K, right? And what that did is, okay, look, I could plug in my miner again, and the hash rate went up with that, right? And now, like I said, it's a little bit of a lagging indicator. And what you're seeing now is the Bitcoin network, which I think is absolutely fascinating, adjusting to make sure that the time stays in about 10 minutes. But this difficulty increase will force less economical miners to unplug. And I suspect that's what's going to happen, especially with the price the way it is and the general macro conditions, right? The energy situation in Europe, absolutely brutal, completely. They brought it upon themselves, but it's very, very scary. And then is that going to lead Europe into a recession? If that leads into Europe into a recession, that could potentially affect America. So it's a lot of uncertainty right now. I suspect that, yeah, it's going to go 9% up, and you'll see in a couple weeks, you'll see this thing go right back down.
Yeah. I had, it's funny because you forget how recently the differences in price have happened. And yeah, you're right. It went up to 25K. People probably, we'll plug these back in. We're profitable now, marginally. And then, you get smacked back down to sub 20K. And suddenly, and with increasing energy costs, that double whammy is probably going to drop that difficulty again. We'll probably maybe some slightly slower blocks in the next couple of weeks here. So I guess we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah,
man. Well, dude, I appreciate everything that you brought us today. Great topics, very interesting. Hopefully, we'll thoughts and prayers for Michael Saylor. I'm sure he'll make it through. And yeah, lots of interesting stuff on the nation state front. So yeah, man, Bitcoiners, just keep your head down and be humble, I suppose. Dude, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Awesome. My pleasure. That's right. Take self-custody, everyone. And of course, this is Nico, and this is your Simply Sessions.
Love it, man. Thanks. I'll see you next week. All right, everybody. Again, if you need that IV of good Bitcoin news to your veins, you got to go and subscribe to Simply Bitcoin. Nico does this 6 days a week. He's pumping out the news on the regular. This was just a taste of it. So if you like the news reviews with myself and Nico, head over to Simply Bitcoin, give them a sub, because just straight signal coming out of those guys over there. I've got a few more things to chat about here. Just a few things that I've been working on since I've been home and prior to leaving. My Raspberry Blitz is all synced up, ready to go. Well, with some exceptions, I've got to get it's purring away on behind me here, but I've got a few things that I still have to do. So I got a little screen that's going to be on it, and I bought a soldering gun, soldering iron rather, that I'm learning how to use. Literally just before I did this, I soldered in some of the pins that I need. So I'm going to be affixing this screen to my node, which will give some live information on it. But yeah, my dashboard is up and running. I'm going to have to get playing with this, learning about how to use it, experimenting, so on and so forth. So yeah, look forward to that. And we'll be diving in. A couple other things. RoboSats, the peer-to-peer KYC-free method of obtaining Bitcoin, which I've done a video on exclusively, and I've also done a non-KYC Bitcoin flow, and RoboSats was featured in that. Well, now it's an app that you can add on your Umbrel node. So I have RoboSats open here, and if you notice up in my browser, it's umbrel.local. And a port number. So what is the benefit of using RoboSats in that way? Well, one is because your Umbrel uses Tor anyways, you don't have to actually have Tor browser and access it that way. You can just go on RoboSats that is linked directly to your own node. But then there was also some clarification here, which was super interesting, was that currently, in order to retain any information and around previous trades that you've made, it's better to use a new NIM every single time because it keeps you anonymous for each individual exchange that you do. But if you're running it on your node, then down the line, as they implement things like this, you could actually retain some of, for yourself, retain some of the previous trades that you've done if you want that for your own peace of mind. Like, oh, I obtained this Bitcoin, it was currently this price. You can keep that, privately on your own node to retain that information if you see fit. But yeah, this still, it gives you access to utilize through Tor. So if you want to do it that way, well, there's an easy way to do it. All right, moving on. Mempool.space just launched mempool.space/lightning. It gives you lots of cool lightning insights. I've just kind of peeked through it here, but I love mempool.space. It's such a great website. And now that they're offering some insights on lightning, super awesome. Stoked about that. So yeah, check it out. mempool.space/lightning and tinker around. It's a lot of fun. What else do we got here? Oh, they just dropped a new LN Bits extension. So I previously done a video on LN Bits and just how to use it again with either your Umbrel or via, the video that I did was using Voltage, but it's basically just a toolkit for Lightning. You can do so much with it. They just added a new extension that allows you to program an NFC card to pull from a balance, set withdrawal limits either per transaction or per day, and basically set up a tap card to be able to spend from a designated Lightning wallet whenever you like. So I'm excited to play with this. And the reason I want to play with this is there was a bit of a more proprietary version of this, or it is open source. They open sourced it and everything, but Coin Corner, they launched the Bolt card. And I did a video on that. You can program it however you see fit in terms of just basic gift card, tap and redeem. But the Lightning debit card functionality that they had was pulling from a Coin Corner account previously. Well, now that's no longer the case. You can use their tool and this LN Bits extension to use the exact same card, or really any NFC device, to create your own, tap and pay and redeem option in terms of an NFC card, or like you could put it in like in the little preview video, Ben Ark says, or you could put it in like an old Casio watch, or really anything you wanted, and just tap and pay, which is super awesome. Stoked to play with that. What else we got here? I was talking about this earlier with Nico. Lena dropped this little cartoon here with her little hodler characters. With the Bank of Canada gaslighting everyone. You asked us if we printed cash to support the federal government. We didn't print cash, you dum-dums. We printed money electronically, and we can remove that money from the system whenever we want. And then everybody's peeking over at a graph of money supply, and the Bank of Canada saying, "Oh no, don't look at that." So, anyways, I enjoyed that. I asked you guys, what are some of your favorite pieces of content from the week? I got a few answers here. Joseph Hall did an article on Bitcoin could become zero emission, talking about negative or a carbon negative technology, in that Bitcoin on aggregate could actually be cleaning up the environment more than it actually emits. And what he's referring to there is taking abandoned wells, like oil and gas wells that are literally just like leaking methane into the air, and actually attaching miners to those, capturing that methane, removing it from the atmosphere, utilizing it to mine, converting that to CO2, which is much less detrimental to the environment, and being a positive impact on our air, which is fantastic. So that's interesting. Feel free to give that a read. Another great article from Pete Rizzo, How to Be a Bitcoin Maximalist. And he refers to it as a system beliefs accepted as authoritative by some group or school, a follower of a distinctive practice, system, or philosophy. He goes into, again, the current fervor around the debate over Bitcoin maximalism. Is it bad? Is it good? So anyways, good read here. Recommend. And then my good friend that I got to hang out with, Alex McShane, in France just this past week, he wrote a little article on his experiences in Biarritz, France, for the Surf and Bitcoin conference. So if you're curious about how that was, or if you were there and you wanted to see his take on it, well worth checking out. So yeah, head on over to Bitcoin Magazine and check that one out. It's called Surf and Bitcoin Maximalism. I dropped a video at the beginning of the week here actually just the other day, on the Ledger Nano S Plus. I try to cover as many pieces of hardware as I can. They recently upgraded the Ledger Nano S to the Ledger Nano S Plus. The too long didn't watch of it is not too much of a difference in terms of functionality. Pretty much does all the same things. The main reason for the upgrade was to be able to add more applications. If you're only using it for Bitcoin, then that won't really matter to you. I will say it's a bit more robust in terms of the build. It feels a little bit more solid, bigger screen, not as flimsy. The buttons seem a little bit more robust as well. So I just kind of did a walkthrough of how to set it up, how to use it with Ledger Live, update the firmware, all of that, transact with it. I also show how to do your recovery, how to use a passphrase on it, and how to import it and use it with alternative software, in this case, Sparrow Wallet. So if you want to take a look at that, feel free. Or if you know somebody that has a Ledger and they just don't know how to use it, there you go. You can take a peek at that. Hopefully it's helpful to some. I still love my cold card though, obviously. And then tomorrow we've got a banger of an episode of Why Are We Bullish coming out. We've got Rob Simone, which is the resident Bitcoin maximalist over at Hedgeye. Remember Keith McCullough? Anyways, they've got a Bitcoiner in their ranks that is trying to orange pill everybody on the team. So he had me on Hedgeye just a couple weeks ago, so he's going to be joining us. We got Joey from the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. We've got Chris Betcher, which if you're unfamiliar with him, check him out on Twitter. He had a really good thread on things that he's learned in life. Super awesome guy. A lot of it is pretty based, and he has Bitcoin references in there. So he's going to talk about kind of his thesis on life and things that he's learned and how it may relate to Bitcoin as well. And then we've got Mark Goodwin from Bitcoin Magazine joining us as well. So it's going to be a packed panel tomorrow. Should be a good time. So don't miss it, 6 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. All right, it's time to wrap up. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share, all those things. Again, really, really help get this in front of more people. Make sure you follow Nico over at Simply Bitcoin as well. Get your daily dose of news 6 days a week. Of course, you can help the show in another way. You can hit up these sponsors I mentioned down below: CoinKate, Shakepay, LEDN, Bitrefill, and BillFodl. They're all down here. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin tip at my Strike page, strike.me/BTC sessions. Head there, type in any amount you want, hit the tip button. You'll be greeted with a Lightning invoice, or if you prefer, tap to the right, you'll see a regular Bitcoin QR code. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening. See you guys next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.